looked at this, maybe have some thoughts on it. It says, what is the source of the energy in this ecosystem? Can anybody tell me where they think the source of the energy is coming from?
The sun.
Sun. How does the energy get from the sun to the hawk?
Oh, it makes the plants. The plants that grow. Hawk eats the animals that eats the plants.
And the plants get theirs from the sun. Right. Again.
Just never go there.
But I thought King can do whatever he wants.
Well, this little king getting your way all the time.
You guys do that?
Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. As king, you need to understand that balance. Respect all the creatures, the crawling ant, the leaping mantle.
Dad, don't we eat the animal?
Yes, Simba, but let me explain. When we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass. And so, we are all connected in the great circle of life.
What do you think Mufasa meant by the circle of life?
Like all their lives are connected in the life cycle.
Okay, we talked about how we all get energy somehow from the sun, correct? Right. So we're going to talk a little bit more, and we're going to kind of compare how the flow of matter and the flow of energy can move through the ecosystem. Cycle of matter and the flow of energy, and they are kind of different, so we need to make sure we know each of them. All right, to start with, we're going to start with some basic terms, and I'm going to give each of you guys a cube, and when we talk about it, I'm going to ask for you guys to show me an example of what you think that term is asking. Say, we have here producers, an organism that creates its own food from inorganic substances through photosynthesis, or even chemosynthesis, because not everything has access to plants, but for the majority it does. So can anybody show me a producer on there, what they believe a producer is? Some examples I have here: grass, trees, nuts, berries. Next are consumers, an organism, usually an animal, but not always, that feed on other organisms and their remains. There are different kinds. We have primary, secondary, they even go up to tertiary, which is different levels, and also micro-consumers. Anybody show me what they believe a consumer is? A consumer is going to be something that has to consume its energy from another source. It does not produce its own. So just about anything but plants has to get energy from your plants. This is going to be any decomposer, any animal that has to eat something else. Okay, on the consumers, we're going to delve into the different kinds of consumers. Primary consumers are normally your herbivores. The herbivore is an animal that eats mostly plants. And those could be anything on the plants: the leaves, the grass, the berries, the nuts, the pollen, the bark, the roots. So you have an herbivore. Some examples I have: deer, squirrel, bumblebees. These are all some that get their energy from plants. Okay, then we have secondary and above. These are going to be our carnivores. Our carnivores are animals that eat mostly meat. Meat can be insects, fish, and other animals. So some examples. You guys show me an example of an animal that eats mainly meat. Some examples I have for you: the lion, owl, shark, and a frog. There's another one that kind of fits in between the herbivores and the carnivores. It can be a primary, it can be a secondary. It's going to be your omnivores. So if herbivores eat plants, carnivores eat meat, and omnivores are in between. They eat both. So can I get an example of an omnivore? Bears, primates, and even us humans, we are considered omnivores. All right, another one that has some debate. It is considered a consumer because it has to consume its energy. It does not make its own, but it's also considered a micro-consumer as are decomposers. That's an animal, or it's a bacteria or fungus. Sometimes it can be an animal that breaks down the cells of dead plants and animals to create an inorganic substance. And decomposers. Some of them include your mushrooms, bacteria, even earthworms. All right, so what do we do with all these? We can put them in a food chain. And a food chain will have just a basic streamline. The producer gets its sun, water, nutrients, makes its own energy. It produces its own energy. Grasshopper eats it, mouse eats the grasshopper, the snake eats the mouse, and the hawk eats the snake. The decomposer, although it shows it to be a circle here, it also decomposes at each level too, not just at the end. Another way we can show the cycle of matter is through a food web. Now this looks really confusing. This is more realistic. It shows the fragility of an ecosystem and shows the realistic of it, but it's really hard and gets complicated when you want to get down into the lower stuff about it. And we have a food pyramid or an ecological pyramid. This is going to show you how the energy is transferred each time it's consumed. If a plant produces 1,000 kilocalories, whatever eats it will only get 10%. So 10% of 1,000 is 100. So these insects are only getting 100 kilocalories. The animals that eat the insects, they only get 1/10 or 10% of the 100, which is your 10 kilocalories. And then the owl that's eating the little rodents, it gets 1/10. So as a general rule, each level, you only get 10% of energy. So now, I'd like to have everybody, I want to give everybody an organism. You can get in pairs or by yourself. And I want you to research what that organism consumes. We are a technology-friendly school. You can use your phone, and I also have some paper here if you would like to look it up. If you guys want to. I want you to take your animal. I want you to write on the back of it if it's a producer, consumer. If it's a consumer, what type. I want you guys to list what it eats, if it's available, what you know it actually eats. And if you can find what its natural predators are, you can write that down. Just as a question, is Wikipedia a valid source? Okay, so we do not accept anything that's from Wikipedia. anybody have a producer that they think? Well, I've got a few producers over here lined up by the window getting sunlight. And if I have berries, right here, I have crops, I have trees, and I have grass. Does anybody have something that eats any of those four? What do you have?
Well, chipmunks eat plants, or other plants also eat trees.
And remember, some of them eat more than one. But yes, they eat from the trees because they have the nuts.
And berries.
Okay, what I want you to do, you guys have herbivores or omnivores? Herbivores. Okay. I want you guys to take this tie piece onto your card, and then you're going to come over here, cut off the other end, and tie the other end to the producer it eats. Does anybody else have something that eats a producer? Any other herbivores or omnivores? Okay, once they get done, then if you have something that eats them,
What are the chipmunk? Yeah, chipmunk.
you have a chipmunk, a deer, and a grasshopper. Berries. But they're still considered
Do you need my chipmunk?
Yeah, I'm watching.
Just my chipmunk versus
I'm just chilling for right now.
and is it eat a grasshopper?
I'm gonna try to get through. Oh, well, can you eat the grasshopper? Yeah. What's this one? I'm gonna. What is that one? Are you gonna eat me? Oh, well, I eat bullfrogs.
Well, we eat each other then, sometimes.
They're supposed to be. Not a big one. Maybe I'm gonna name it Congo.
In the card I have, as the teacher, I have a mushroom. What is the mushroom? Decomposer. Very good. So, what would I attach my card to?
Everything.
Everything. So, as complicated as our web already looks, there's only 6 of us. If I was to attach my card to everything, can you see how a food web can get very complicated?
Yes.
And how just in everything kind of works and relies on everything else. Very good. All right, as a review, when everybody picked up their dice again, now that we've gone over all the different terms and the different levels, I'm going to ask you some of them, and I want to see if we can get more of them correct than we did earlier. So first, I want to ask you, can you show me a carnivore? What does a carnivore eat? Where does it get its energy? about an omnivore? Very good. What about a producer? Very good. And an herbivore. What does an herbivore eat? Plants. A producer of some sort, right? Okay, and about a decomposer. Very good. Now that you guys understand some of the relationship, I have a writing assignment for you. In this writing assignment, you are going to write, you can choose to write a letter, a poem, or a written speech. You're going to put yourself in the point of view of an organism. You can choose whichever one. You can choose one that you had today, or you can choose another one. And in it, I want to see the relationship between your organism and at least another level. Some examples I have, you can have a bacterium's poem, an ode to decay. Talking about all the things that it consumes. You can have a plant's rant in a letter to a local herbivore. You can also have a speech from a primary consumer that's trying to persuade the carnivore not to eat it. Those are some of the examples I have. Remember that to identify the relationship and to use correct grammar and spelling while you're writing it. Whatever's not completed is due tomorrow.
Okay, we're good, yeah? Good.